Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about this topic. America, ladies and gentlemen, is indeed a constitutional republic. Okay, we're not just a republic. We're not a democracy. And, you know, the reason I spend so much time on this again is because if people believe that we're a democracy as a form of government, then eventually they believe that, hey, 51% should rule. And they believe that, you know what, the people want to decide, let them. They should be able to decide whatever they want to. And the founders warned us against this and said, you're going to have the tyranny of the majority if you do that. The tyranny of the majority, which means, hey, if they vote for something wicked or wrong, then it goes south. All right, so I put together 25 realities proving that we're not a democracy and we never have been. And the founding fathers repeatedly warned against a pure democracy. Do we have democratic principles? Yes, we vote. Yes, we can have public opinion. There's a lot of things we can do to influence, but we are not a democracy. And we need to stop thinking or saying that we are, because it really leads us down the wrong road. We're becoming more democracy-like every day as we dismantle the proper role of constitutional government based on Republican principles. I don't mean Republican as a party. We'll get into that. But I'm talking about 25 principles proving we're not a democracy. I'm on number 8. Separation of powers, ladies and gentlemen, prevents majority domination. Prevents majority domination. Legislative, executive, and judicial powers are divided to prevent any single group from gaining unchecked control. Now understand, we have those 3 branches of government, right? That's a vertical. That's a horizontal division of power across, right? But we have vertical too. We have states and the general government, another separation. Counties and states, another separation. And even the local levels, you've got a governor, executive branch. You've got a state legislative body, and you've got state courts or judiciary, right? So we have separation of powers vertically and horizontally in America, all designed to make sure no one gains the majority. Interesting, right? Number 9, federalism distributes power. Power is divided between the national government and the states, preventing excessive centralization. We don't want centralization, right? Number 10, we have the Electoral College. It reflects Republican principles. The president is elected through a constitutional process rather than a simple national popular vote. That's why even though the majority can win, but if the Electoral College offsets that, the president could lose, or the candidate for president could lose. That's by design. Everywhere in our system has these checks and balances. So even if you commit election fraud by a little bit through, making somebody win the majority of the vote, they could still lose. Everything in our society, in America, based on our constitutional republic form of government, is designed as a check, a balance, a protection, right? Why? We don't want tyranny of any kind. We don't want the majority to decide things by their masses, and we don't want minorities to pull the lever of government in the favor of the few at the expense of the many either. 11, the Senate, ladies and gentlemen, whether you know this or not, was originally indirectly elected. That's right, indirectly elected. Now it's directly elected because we're dismantling our constitutional republic because we believe we have a democracy when we don't. Senators were originally chosen by state legislatures, further insulating government from temporary political passions. So the people could vote for the House of Representatives members. The states could vote for the Senate members. The people could vote for president, but yet the Electoral College could offset that. See the checks and balances everywhere? And we've started to dismantle these things. And why? Because we use the wrong language and we don't know, and we think of majority rules, that's fine. No, that's not fine, nor is it good, nor was it the intent of the Founding Fathers at all. I got to bring it back. I got to make sure you know, and I got to hope you stand with me to preserve what we hold so dear. 12, the rule of law governs America, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution, the supreme law of the land, not public opinion, not polls, remain the supreme law of the land. It's the Constitution. That's why we're a constitutional republic. A republic is checks and balances. A constitution lays out how those checks and balances overlay one another and how they work. Delegating authority to different groups. Hey, president, here's your authority. Here's your list, buddy. It's very narrow. You have a lot of power within that narrow scope, but don't go outside of it, sir. Because if you do, we've got the Congress that'll rein you in. Well, they're supposed to. Get it done, Congress. And the courts that'll rein you in. Get it done, courts. If Congress gets out of control, hey, the courts and the president will rein Congress in. If the courts get out of control, Congress and the president will rein them in. If the general government gets out of control, the states will rein it in. Do you see these checks and balances everywhere? It's critical to understand. Number 13, the Declaration of Independence focuses on rights. Rights that were violated by a thug king. That's why the Declaration of Independence rejected that form of government, highlighted that we have unalienable rights that came from God. You don't believe me? Read the end of the Declaration of Independence. It clearly refers to a higher power than government. That's for sure. The Declaration clearly teaches that rights come from our Creator, and that's not government. We created government. Government's the creation of we the people. We are the creation of God Almighty. Rights come from our Creator, folks, and governments simply exist to guarantee, to preserve, to secure those rights. Got it? Good. Number 14, public officials swear to defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. Elected officials take an oath to uphold the Constitution, not democracy, not to follow public opinion or majority opinion at all. 15, America uses democratic methods within a, quote, Republican system. That's a fact. So if you want to say we're a constitutional, democratic, Republican, constitutional, okay, fine. That's what I mean. We borrow a lot of these elements from many different governments. Voting and elections and representation, well, you could say those are democratic principles. Voting is, election kind of is. Representations are more Republican form of government than they are Democratic form of government. But no matter what, we're under a constitutional supreme law of the land framework, right? Yes, these points actually strengthen my argument, folks. Listen, the American system was deliberately designed to slow down, restrain, filter, and limit simple majority rule. The founders repeatedly tried to do everything they could to slow it down, to prevent one group, no matter how big or how small, from gaining the system. Additional evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that we were not designed as a pure democracy in any way. Constitutional amendments, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to change the Constitution, in other words, they require, quote, super majorities, not just majorities, super majorities. Why? Because they wanted the bar to be set so high to prevent majority tyranny or tyranny majority. The Constitution cannot be amended by a simple majority vote. An amendment requires, listen carefully, 2/3 of approval in both houses of Congress, so the House and the Senate, or a convention that would be called by 2/3 of the states, And then after all those two-thirds, it requires 3/4 of the states to ratify it. It's super hard to get an amendment passed. Intentionally so. The founders intentionally made constitutional change difficult. Why? Because fundamental rights and governmental structure should not, I repeat, should not be altered by temporary majorities. Most major government action requires more than a basic majority. Throughout the Constitution, many important actions require supermajorities rather than simple majority for that very reason. I'll talk about examples in seconds. I'm Sam Bushman.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my 25 different points plus my commentary to prove we're a constitutional republic. Not, I repeat, not a democracy. Run number 17, ladies and gentlemen. Spread this broadcast far and wide, would you please? It is fundamental understanding we're after here. It's education to make sure that we don't lose what we've got. And if we think and run around and talk about and democracy, eventually we will lose this greater point the founders made. You have a republic if you can keep it. Number 17, most major government actions require supermajorities, not just majorities. Yeah. Examples include, as I mentioned, constitutional amendments. If you want to change the government, you got to have way supermajorities. Two-thirds, three-quarters, that kind of stuff. Treaty ratification, high bar. Conviction impeachment trials, high bar. Overriding presidential vetoes, high bar. Expelling members of Congress, super high bar. The founders repeatedly chose consensus over simple majority rule. They wanted everybody to be aboard to the best they could. You couldn't have 100% because if someone's sick, it won't work. So you got to make the bar as high as you can, but be realistic. 18, the states serve as an additional check. The states are not administrative districts of Washington, D.C. No, they are sovereign political entities within our general federal system. Many constitutional actions require state vote, state participation, state majorities, ensuring that, hey, nobody gets out of control, that the national doesn't run away from it all and control the entire system. You're going to have the states, separate constitutional republics in and of themselves. The United States is nothing more than a group of states that are sovereign, that are constitutional republics in their own right, overlaid by agreement to be part of the more perfect union. Do you see how this isn't God directly leading the country, but it's as close as we can get with God's hand on our founding fathers? 19, the Electoral College rejects pure national majority rule. The president is not elected by simple majority or nationwide popular vote. The Electoral College requires candidates to build support across states and regions rather than just relying on massive population centers that could give majority rule democracy. They didn't want that. 20, the Senate was intentionally designed to temper, quote, popular passions. The House of Representatives reflects the people more directly. The Senate was created to be a stabilizing institution that would slow down sudden political movements. They wanted to protect long-term interest, stabilize. That's why each state had a legislative body that was supposed to pick the senators. The founders intentionally created two chambers with different structures to prevent hasty action. 21, jury verdicts often require more than a simple majority as well. In criminal cases, juries generally are required to reach unanimous verdicts before convicting anyone. The government cannot take a person's liberty simply because 51% of jurors think he's guilty. No, the standard reflects a core American constitutional principle. Protecting liberty is more important than achieving a simple majority agreement. 22, due process limits majority power as well. Even overwhelming public support cannot legally deprive a person or an individual of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Doesn't matter what the majority thinks. Constitutional protections stand above popular opinion, ladies and gentlemen. 23, the Bill of Rights is a list of things that the majority cannot do. The First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Ninth, 10th, they're all restrictions on government power. That's what the Bill of Rights is all about. The founders just felt like, man, we cannot leave it the way it is because it might run away. We got to restrict more. So the Constitution grants limited authority. The Bill of Rights says, yeah, you got limited authority, all right, and you got power there, but keep your hands off the rest of this, baby. If it isn't listed, can't do it. Go look at your 10th Amendment, right? We don't want majorities violating fundamental rights. That's the clear, resounding reality. Number 24, checks and balances intentionally slow down government and prevent the majority. The founders believed that government should move carefully, not quickly. A bill may need approval from the House, the Senate, the President, and it may still then be reviewed by the courts. This is the opposite, 100% against or 180 degrees opposite of pure majority rule. Do you see how everything points against a pure democracy? Number 25, the entire structure reflects distrust of concentrated power. The Constitution divides power between federal and state governments, between the three branches of government, all the way from the top to the bottom, county to the general government, between two different chambers of Congress, between the people and those who represent them. The result is a system designed to prevent any single majority from exercising unlimited authority. Let me say that again. The result is a system designed to prevent any single majority or democracy from exercising unlimited authority. If America were truly a democracy, folks, then 51% would decide nearly everything. But in America, 51% cannot, I repeat, cannot amend the Constitution, ratify a treaty, override a veto, convict in an impeachment trial, or convict in the courts of our land, take away rights. The founders repeatedly required supermajorities for those things, many times cascading or overlapping. Supermajority. Their goal was to protect individual rights, which is a characteristic of a constitutional republic, not a democracy. The Constitution is full of barriers against, quote, simple majority rule. That's because the founders were building a constitutional republic to protect liberty and God-given rights. Constitutional republic versus democracy. Listen up. Constitutional republic. Constitution is the supreme law. Rights are protected from government infringement. Representatives govern but under constitutional limits based on God's law. Checks and balances restrain power. Federalism divides authority. Minority rights are protected. Government is limited by the rule of law. Liberty is preserved through constitutional safeguards. Here's a pure democracy. You ready? Majority opinion is supreme. Right or wrong? Don't care. Rights may be altered by majority vote. Public passions can drive policy. Right? Few barriers exist to prevent majority power. Minority rights might be in danger. Government authority expands according to popular demand. Stability depends largely on, quote, public sentiment. Liberty can be sacrificed on the altar of temporary majorities. Why does this distinction matter so much, folks? Because the central question is simple. Is the purpose of government to do whatever the majority wants? Or is the purpose of government to protect God-given rights that no majority has the authority to violate, huh? The founders chose the second path intentionally. America was designed so that liberty, religious liberty particularly, would not depend on elections alone. It was designed so that liberty would endure even when elections produce, quote, unwise outcomes, right? The Constitution stands against the majority, stands against tyranny, stands against public passions and whims. For that reason, ladies and gentlemen, many Americans believe we should proudly and accurately describe ourselves and our nation as what it was intended and founded to be, a constitutional republic. Yeah, there's democratic processes, but not a democracy, a constitutional republic. As Franklin reminded us, the challenge has never been creating the republic. The challenge is keeping it. And you can only keep a republic if you understand what it is. And if you call it a democracy, you can say, oh, Sam, we don't mean any harm. We mean, well, you know what we mean, don't you, Sam? No, I really don't. And the reason that I don't is because words have power. Words have meaning. And over time, if you continue to refer to what we are not, in fact, what our founding fathers warned us against, in fact, what our government is set up to be 180 degrees from, if you continue to use that word democracy, eventually, pardon the pun, but you will dumb down society to believe majority rules. And we are a democracy. And eventually they'll forget that we're a constitutional republic. They'll forget all the checks and balances. You don't believe me? Why did the 17th Amendment change senators from being elected by the state legislative bodies to now being popular elections, making us more of a democracy? I suggest we get rid of the 17th Amendment and go back to the senators being elected by the state legislative bodies, giving the states a seat at the table. Truth, ladies and gentlemen, is the key to the exercise. Education, and then standing tall for the sacred cause of liberty, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sam Bushman. You are watching the one and only hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. We call it Liberty Roundtable Live, and it's everywhere. Spread the word, share the love, and God save the Republic of the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth.
But it's worth it when you try. Yeah, it's worth it when you try.